This is an early session from Cayenne's second stay with us. During the week of the second stay, we had bad weather the first day, and so we worked in the house, house manners, and kind of just chilled out, got to know Cayenne again. I decided I wanted to teach her to use the foot targets or touch pads. This item is used to teach a dog all different kinds of skills, positional skills to work remotely away from the handler, as well as a skill called the send out, which is to run out to a predetermined distance and to perform a terminal behavior there. In AKC, the behavior is a sit in the AKC obedience. In the IPO, which is the German Shepherd Sports, the behavior is a down from the run. And so what we do first here is we lure the dog onto the touchpad, mark that this is the behavior we're looking for, the 2 feet planted on the touchpad, and provide rewards. And this allows an opportunity for us to do what's called charging our markers, which is at the beginning of each session of training. We'll do some sort of skill that the dog can perform fairly easily in quick succession to get them used to that sound of that yes marker and aware that reward is on the way.
Yes.
This wasn't exactly where we started. We did a little bit of playing around with a tug toy and just a couple of marker charging behaviors. But you can see here, Cayenne really doesn't understand yet what this thing is all about, and it's pretty common with a dog her age that when we try to introduce the touchpad, because there's probably been correction for things like furniture or just things throughout her life, that most dogs her age have a little bit of hesitancy putting their feet on this and bearing weight on it. And so it's a little bit of a challenge. We have a little bit of early success, which is kind of normal, and then once we get past that first rep where we had success, it's very normal that the dog just goes, I don't really think this is worth it, and I can just get close to it, and I don't have to touch this thing. And so usually it takes 10 or 12 minutes of convincing the dog that this thing's okay to stand on. So I'm including this in the video because I want you to understand the process here of teaching her anything new. This was something new to her, and what I'm watching for here is drive and frustration. Do I have drive, or is the dog frustrating itself out of drive? And here she's offering other behaviors that she knows are worth a reward. She knows a down is worth a reward when I ask for it, and she doesn't know what I'm asking for because I haven't given her any commands. I'm just trying to lure her onto this. And here I've got her on there, marked yes and rewarded. And we do this all with low intensity, without a lot of excitement, because that excitement, while it's good at reinforcing behaviors that she's already familiar with, it is really not helpful for teaching new behaviors. Too much adrenaline, too much, too high of a heart rate, all those things just don't help us to learn a new thing, but they definitely make things that might be already added to the repertoire, they help us to enforce or reinforce those things. So I wanted to leave the soundtrack in the background here so that you could hear the markers. I had a little bit of audio trouble at the beginning, so I muted that first 15 seconds or so of the track out, or first minute or so of the track out. So here I'm telling her, I can tell she's getting frustrated. I'm just reminding myself what's going on. With Cayenne, when she gets frustrated, her lips curl up in front of her teeth, and you can kind of see her make this grimace of a face. And so here I threw a different behavior at her. I told her to down, and I'm rewarding her. Gave her a front position, and I'm rewarding her. The idea is giving her something that is easy for her to do, to break up the monotony of this frustrating thing that she doesn't understand yet. And we'll come back to it here in a minute. And really all I'm looking for in this series or this session with her is to get 3 or 4 reps on the touchpad, and then we'll just do other things. And we'll always mix in other behaviors that she knows along with these new things we're asking of her. Here I'm kind of just providing with my leg, just providing a little blockage to keep her from spinning around into the heel position. That's another thing she's offering because she knows it's worth a reward. And I'm also giving some auditory stimulation here. I tend to, during reward events, I make a sound, just like a choo-choo train or something. And the idea is that gets associated with reward, and then when I want to encourage her to do something, I can make this sound, and she'll get the idea that it's rewarding. Here I flipped the touchpad over so it's just a dish. This is another technique that I found helps some dogs to understand this isn't a landmine I'm asking them to step on, it's just an upside down dish. It's made out of rubber, recycled tires or something. She's just hesitant to get on it. So what I'll end up doing here is I'm going to get down with her and just pick her feet up gently and put them right in the dish. Something she's probably done hundreds of times throughout her life, stepped in her own food dish, and just a natural thing for dogs to do. So I'll just kind of help her to understand that this is just a squishy dish. In this stage of the process of teaching her anything new, I'll also accept partially complete behaviors, like 1 foot on the item in this case. I really don't care if she gives me both feet. I just want this thing to be rewarding. And so I'm just looking for her to do something here that gets us where we want to go, which is both feet firmly on it. For now, 1 foot kind of half on it is just fine, and I'll give her a reward, and it'll get more and more valuable to her as we work here. And she's trying to steal the food without doing it, so there's a little bit of stubbornness that I see in Cayenne in things like this. Like, I kind of wonder if she really does get it earlier, and she's just trying to see how far she can push and not do the behavior and still get the reward. It's just kind of part of who she is. I'll just pick her feet up again, set them on the pad, reward. If I can hold her there for a minute, I'll give her multiples. In that case, I gave her 3, and then I'm going to give her an intense chasing type reward here. When we get a behavior, she got a little tangled up in the leash, so we got to fix that. I'm trying to get, while I have her in drive during those rewards, I'm trying to get her right back into the behavior. So here she stepped right onto it and got rewarded again. These quick succession rewards and long reward events are what's going to get her over the hump here. 1 foot on, just getting rewarded there. I'm pushing her just a little bit more, trying to get the other foot on.
Try something different.
And I'm not going to push this too long.
Heel.
Come back to something she knows.
Yes.
Get into a heel position, and we'll do a little bit of healing.
Come.
Or rather,
Yes.
position change.
Stay.
I've noticed during this board and train session, or this week, that Cayenne's drive has come up to the point now where a little bit of correction, a little bit of voice change, tone change, leash pressure don't knock her right out of drive anymore with me, which is great, very encouraging. We can start to balance out reward versus pressure and correction.
Yes. Good girl. Heel.
Here I'm trying to reinforce that head position up towards my eyes. So every time I see it in a good picture, I'm going to mark yes and reward.
Heel.
And if she looks at my hand or looks behind me at where she thinks the treat bag is, or something else is distracting her, I'm going to tell her no, and I might add a little bit of leash pressure. Here I'm having her follow my left leg and focus, trying to fade the lure away as much as I can. So my hand is pinned mostly against my body along a line that I want her eyes to focus up to my face. But when I see her look at my hand, I do not reward her. I only reward her when I see her look at my face, and you can tell the difference between the eye contact and the focus on my hand. And when I feel like she needs it, I'll bring my hand back out and provide a little bit of luring help. But really, the lure needs to be going away for her at this point. And what I'm looking for here, when she's slightly out of position, I'm looking for her to find the correct position that I'm rewarding her. And these are small variations because I want her to understand the subtle differences between her body position, what's correct and what's not. So when she turns her rear end out like that, I'm telling her no. And usually I'm stepping away from her with a little bit of leash pressure behind me to help to correct her into the right position. There's a good one. And so when she looked at me versus the hand, she got rewarded. And we're not going to just reward with one piece of food and then start over. We're going to have her chase the food. I'm going to make some noise. That movement itself is reinforcing. And if I'd remembered my treat bag here, instead of having my pocket loaded with hot dogs, we'd be able to do this faster even, this session, because of my equipment availability and where I couldn't find my treat bag. She is getting a little bit slower pace, and I'm noticing, like right here, this is post-reinforcement pause. This is a habituated behavior where when she drops out of drive there, she starts to sniff the ground. This can be caused by just the pace of reward or lack of reward in her normal routine, or it can be caused by dropping treats and letting her pick them up. You'll notice I never ever drop a treat, and if I have the ability to, I never let the dog pick the treat up off the ground. If I see one on the ground, I'll dive on it and pick it back up, so that my dogs don't get habituated to sniffing the ground for their treats. We'll use, later in this video, we'll do a food refusal in a downstay where I'm throwing food on the ground, but I don't let the dog pick those up off the ground, especially when I notice like this that they're habituated to sniffing, because that tends to reinforce it. Just the act of sniffing, letting the dog sniff, that act of hunting can be self-reinforcing. So we have to really watch that. If we want a tracking dog and we don't care about healing, we can let the dog sniff a lot. But in this case, we're a lot more concerned with the on-leash behavior than we are with tracking. So another technique here to notice is, it's kind of hard to see on this angle, but you'll see it throughout the video. Whenever I have the ability to, I'm placing my reward in such a way that it reinforces eye contact. So in healing, I'm holding it high so that her head tips up, and in the front position especially, you'll see me turn my hand palm down, but sort of above my belly button. And I'll switch hands because I'm trying not to let her habituate to one hand.
Nope, 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 nope.
There, I got a little firmer with my no. Fell into more of a correction because she's doing that sniffing thing again. A little subtle position change to get her in the right spot. And she's giving me good eye contact, ignoring the hand.
Nope.
The rear end spinning out, so got a little bit of work to do here to clean some of this back up.
Good.
But here she's giving me much better attention
Good.
and body position.
Heel.
Nice left pivot there. This one's worth a good reward. That was a beautiful left pivot in place.
Hey. Here.
She showed very good awareness of her rear end there. which is something I've been working on, and you see me work on throughout this video. She tends to crab walk her rear end out quite a bit, especially in the sit from a heel.
Yes.
And so something that we've really worked on, and that was a really good rep. I don't let her jump on me and put her feet on me, but I've found with Cayenne that she finds jumping up in the reward event very gratifying. And so what I will let her do is jump with her back towards me, and then I'll catch her and hold her and scruff her chest and give her some pats, and she seems to find that very gratifying. But yeah, I don't let her jump the paws onto me. You'll see some wet spots on my pants from her paws, which she gets a verbal correction for doing that. It's happened 2 or 3 times.
Heel.
Working on that left pivot again. Good rear end awareness there. Took her just a second longer, but she did the behavior we were looking for, just to tuck her rear end to the side. And there she did it again. Beautiful.
Look. Look.
I'm looking for the focus here, but not on my hand.
Heel.
I'm going to try and heel her right onto the touchpad and see if she'll take the correct position with her feet on the pad, which she wasn't really keen to do here. But again, this is her first session with these touchpads. So a lot of times with the dog this age, I have larger touchpads, and I'll use those for the first session, and then I'll switch down to these slightly smaller ones. But in this session, I just kept the one out I was using with the puppies. So we'll just non-reinforce these misses and try to get the reward when she actually touches it. And you'll see here, there's a lot of hesitancy. What I found really interesting was when we came out for our very next session after this, it's a very different picture.
Nope. Sit. Good. No. No.
Here's something else I've noticed about Cayenne is for this session, her
Good.
sensitivity to the lure is actually too high.
Down.
And so I'm really working to fade these away at this point. I noticed that when I put my hand behind me, which is my signal to her that I'm withdrawing the reward,
Heel.
she's starting to think that this is a signal to go around behind me. See there, she did it again. And this is not what I'm looking for. So
Heel. No.
I'll start to use a more corrective tone with her, which she starts to get the message that that's not what I'm looking for. But I'm trying very hard not to use firm leash correction with her because I don't want to knock her out of drive. And here it's just a matter of trying to get her to be aware of her rear end. And so we're doing this little dance. It looks a little funny, but I found it very effective to get the dog to be aware of their rear end and to really focus by doing it this way.
Heel. No. No.
See, that was even that little tap on the leash was too much for her. Knocked her out of drive.
Look.
So we got to reestablish drive with her again, get her focused. It's very subtle with her, whether in this low arousal state, whether she's in drive or not. In a high arousal state, where she's really excited, she can take a much harder tap or a pop on the leash without shutting off like that. But we're doing this sort of low arousal to really work on some of this fine tuning stuff. Unfortunately, high arousal and fine tuning don't really go together. So we're just going to switch it up. I'm going to have her do a down over here where it's a little drier. It's not so spongy.
Good.
Then I'll let her kind of rest her brain here for a second.
Good. Stay. Come. Yes. Oh, 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 drop it.
So here I'm not going to let her pick it up off the ground. But what I'm working on here
Bam.
is actually trying to eliminate some of this post-reinforcement pause. Notice this reward is
Nope.
lasting a long time.
Nope.
There were 3 or 4 pieces of food
Yes.
there. I threw a no at her because
Nope, nope,
she
nope, nope, nope. Heel.
started to go to the ground, even during the reward event, which shows me she's really
Yes.
gotten habituated to either dropping food and being
Nope.
able to pick it up, or this is just a pretty common dog thing with checkout behavior. Sort of a, I need a mental break, I'll sniff the ground for a second. So here she's into it again. And I generally do not allow dogs to blow me off during a training session by sniffing the ground. So here's our very next session. And I called that session because of her checkout behavior and just put her up.
Cayenne.
And then this is the same day but
Cayenne.
late in the afternoon.
Come. Nope. Come.
Here's our very first
Good.
reps.
Yes. Nope.
Notice the hand position is reinforcing that eye contact during the front position. And I'm actually going to start to pull her closer by creating a pocket as we work these positions.
Girl. All right. All right. You turned on, huh? Come on. Touch. Yes.
A little different, right? No avoidance whatsoever.
Uh-uh.
I tend to give
Nope.
the dog a rest in a
Cayenne.
crate as a
Touch.
finish to any
Touch.
training session. And what I find is
Good.
those good reps that we had, even if there were only 3 or 4,
Good.
tend
No.
to rehash them. And all of a sudden we come out in another session and she absolutely knows what I mean, that she puts her feet on this. And now, because she knows, I'm able to give her much more high arousal sort of reinforcing rewards, and she's much more excited now. But she will overshoot because she's so excited. Now I'm going to push for a little bit more duration because she understands to actually stand on this pad.
Yes.
I'm using that auditory stimulation again. You can see she's absolutely jazzed to do this. I'm trying to teach her here to actually jump through my arms, just as part of her reward event, because I notice she loves to dance back and forth in front of me, so giving her something to do. And if we can push that further,
Nope. You overshot.
if we can push that further, we'll have a behavior during the reward event that would look pretty cool, but it's just at the beginning here.
Yes.
Not bad for her second session with a touchpad.
Yes. Hey.
She's getting a little
You
excited.
little excited, huh? You little excited? Good. Down.
And then we're going to cap that drive and make her
Good.
do a stationary
Stay.
behavior. The idea of practicing this when she's in that most excited state is that when she's too excited, you're
Come.
greeting her or something like that, you'll be able to, because of that work, get her to do a
Good.
behavior that's stationary. So here I'm
Stay.
working on pulling in that front position to contact.
Good.
You see her head position is much better, and because of the way I'm presenting those rewards, she's starting to cheat to the final behavior that I want. If you always take food out of the same pocket and you went straight to her mouth, her
Touch.
head would be right at the pocket. Well, here I don't
Touch.
have a pocket, but every time I deliver the food, I'm trying to deliver it the same
Touch.
way.
No. Yes. Good. Touch. Nope.
Okay, we're going right from drive to
Touch.
behavior.
Good.
And I'm already making these lures quite a bit more subtle than they were during our session earlier this day.
Good.
These lures are 50% of what they were before. If you've noticed, they're higher. That was a little bit special because that's a sort of backwards entrance into
Heel.
heel, something that's fairly new to
Nope.
her. There's a little bit of help there.
Good. Heel. No. No. Heel.
Every time she goes to that hand and starts to bother it, I'm giving her a
Nope.
no.
Good. Heel. Yes.
Unless I put it right in the position. If it's out to the side, I tell her no.
Cayenne. 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 Yes.
Trying to shorten that amount of time that she checks
Down.
out at the end of a behavior.
No.
Or at the end of a reward.
Good. Good. Stay.
I'm holding her muzzle up as I provide that reward so that she has to look at my face as I provide
Touch.
the food.
Nope. Touch.
Here I didn't even provide a lure. I'm just
No.
using spatial pressure and body position to try and get her on there. Now I'm giving her a little bit of help.
Yes. Touch.
Help can also be
Touch.
in the form of leash pressure. You notice she's in a high state of arousal, so she can take a little bit more leash
Good.
pressure. So I'll just give her a very short leash
Uh-uh.
so that we don't waste so much time with her kind of bouncing around.
Nope. Touch.
A little bit of leash pressure, and she's right back on.
Nope.
Bounced off. Leash pressure, back on.
Yes.
Nice thing about leash pressure here in this stage is she
Touch.
it's directional, so you can actually pull her on where, and because of the drive state,
No.
it doesn't result in opposition
Yes.
where you'd be dragging her in a low arousal state, and she'd be resisting it.
Touch. Nope. Touch. Yes.
Yeah, virtually no lure there.
Okay. Down.
We'll switch behaviors. It's always beneficial to go back and retouch the things she knows. Notice there's no
Good.
lure needed for the down. So we've already faded that away. Same with sit for her.
Heel. No. Heel.
Come back to things she knows.
Uh-uh. Heel. No. No.
Again, looking for that rear end awareness here.
Yes.
She kept herself straight there. She got rewarded.
Heel. No.
Nope, she's crabbing out again, so she'll get a no. Looking for just a backwards step here with her.
Yes.
That was backwards into a sit, but she kept straight, so it's worth it to me.
Right.
Now we'll come along and
Right.
have her heel
Nope.
on the right side, which
Nope.
isn't always that important, but having your dog understand that this is also a position that you might want is worthwhile to practice.
Yes.
We don't tend to spend as much time on a right hand heel, but I just put it on a different cue. We have right and we have heel. It's not heel right, it's just right. Here I'm looking for that close body position and vertical head orientation in the finish.
Touch.
Like
Touch. Nope. Nope. Touch. Yes.
a little bit of lure to remind her what
No.
to do here.
Uh-uh. Good. Look.
Now I'm combining the touchpad with a look cue.
Yes. Need to go potty? Let's go.
And I was right there.
Touch.
That was her reason for
Nope.
being distracted. So just being
Touch.
aware that that's what's going
No.
on and clearing the area that you're working in is important. You know, you don't want the dog to then be coming back. They'll come back to the same spot that they eliminated and sniff it and be distracted
No.
by their own scent. So getting out of the area to do that is
Nope.
beneficial.
Nope.
She's offering a down when I told her
Touch.
to touch.
No. Touch.
A little bit of lure to help her understand. Big reward.
Yes. Good girl. Touch.
Much easier when her excitement level's up now.
Good. No. Touch.
And I'll actually correct her now for
Good.
breaking the behavior because she understands what it is. But it's
Look. Look.
probably 60-40 verbal versus leash pressure. 40 on the leash pressure side.
Brava. Good. Down. Stay.
I use a down like this various times during a training session to allow the dog a little mental break without practicing a behavior that I don't like ground sniffing. As long as they're holding a behavior that I like,
Nope.
then we can take a break like this. Here I'm actually wrestling my treat bag on purpose
Good.
to help neutralize her
Good.
to breaking, thinking that it's reward time just because she hears the bag in my treat bag crinkle.
Good.
And remembering those good markers to help her get over this time where I'm not rewarding her.
Stay. Stay.
And this is,
Stay. Good.
there's quite a long time there where she expected reward and did not get it.
Stay. Good.
And so now we're doing a little bit of food refusal. Those are the same exact hot dogs she's been rewarded with, and they're just within reach there if she were to pop.
Nope. Down. Stay.
So that was a very light, really just stopped her with the prong collar there.
Stay.
With some dogs that don't have a problem with ground sniffing as a checkout behavior, I might complete this exercise with a recall and then let them pick the hot dogs up. In Cayenne's case, because I've noticed that's a problem for her, that she thinks she can go to the ground and that those are hers, I will not allow her to pick those up.
No.
And she has to get all of her reward from me.
No. Good.
Notice the geometry of the way I was standing there. The treats in this case were directly in front of the dog, and I was at an oblique angle, so I was slightly behind a 90-degree angle to the dog. This allowed me good control with the leash. If she broke and went toward the food like she did, that angle of the leash allowed me to stop her before she got there. If I ever let the dog get those, I defeat this exercise, and we're basically practicing rewarding the dog for breaking. So we want to be careful. We never allow the dog to break from the down and go pick up the hot dogs.
No.
Notice here, this is a form of non-reinforcement of her sniffing. She will not find anything on the ground there. But what I can't do is just let her hunt around, because that becomes in itself self-reinforcing. They just like hunting. So here, notice the difference in her behavior when I grabbed the leash. She knew a correction was available. It's a little bit collar-wise on her part. She knows the difference between on and off leash. But when she gives me that focus again, she'll get the reward from the hand.
Good. Touch. Yes. Nope.
Because of her intent, focus on my face there, she's kind of hunting around with her paws, and she didn't spot the touchpad before she went in, so that's why she kind of looked goofy there.
Stay. Good.
These environments where there's stuff going on in the background, I'm not sure what it was, birds or some kind of noise. Yeah, there's a crow, some kind of bird she's attracted to. And so those kind of environments where she will break her focus on me but not break the behavior because it's not intense enough, those are perfect environments at this stage where we want her to get rewarded and reinforced for regaining that focus, because the more she does, the less she ends up wanting to look away. And you'll notice the difference here between this session and the last session. Her time looking away is much, much shorter.
Yes. Come on, right here.
She's only getting reinforced when she actually looks at me.
Down. Stay. Come.
So here I've made a pocket for her to enter into in front of me. And then I'm going to bring my right foot back up and reward, so she's very close. Notice she bounced out. It's just a feeling of her sensitivity to spatial pressure, but we want those recall front positions to be very close. So here I'm going to use a little bit of leash pressure to remind her to get in close.
Yes.
And she'll get rewarded several times here. I'm also holding the food, like I mentioned, with my palm down, so that it's encouraging her to extend her head upwards while she looks into my face.
Touch.
Now I'm doubling up the look with the touchpad. And we'll end the session there on a couple of very good reps. It's important not to sort of overdo it and try to push past where you start to get sloppy, tired reps, or the dog loses intensity, because then all you're doing is practicing low intensity. Something to think about in terms of upping her intensity in the behavior is the way that the reward events are provided. You saw when I was teaching her a new skill, I would give her a yes and then deliver a piece of food, or a good and then deliver a piece of food in low intensity mode. But when we want her to increase her intensity and stay in drive longer and stay in behaviors longer, the way we get there is the way that we deliver the reward event. It needs to be multiple pieces of food in one event, and it needs to involve chasing and missing the food. You saw that multiple times during this video, the way that those need to be delivered. I would also suggest never allowing her to pick up food off the ground during an obedience session. If it gets dropped, either dive on it and get it yourself, or just move away from it and have her do a down and stay and go back and clean up. And that way you'll start to eliminate the habit of her sniffing the ground. That's also a checkout behavior, which is sort of like her taking a little mental vacation in between when she thinks a reward is available. We've talked about this in some of our private sessions, where the pattern of work, yes, reward, work, yes, reward, they get habituated to this, and they don't like the work part and they don't like the yes part, but they like the reward part, so they'll find something else mentally to do until they think it's available again. And the way that we get around this is by flipping the rhythm over towards work, yes, reward, 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 and that's all that chasing and missing. And then immediately before the dog falls out of drive, right back into work. It's a short burst of work. Yes, reward, reward, reward. And because of that pattern, we can then start to stretch the amount of time that work involves without degrading the dog's drive. We just have to make those rewards intense and last longer than a little yes and a piece of food. I think with Cayenne's level of drive that she's starting to exhibit and her energy level, we could definitely add some additional skills more towards competition obedience. She will, of course, need to settle into some of these skills, which I think we can accomplish. But your goals at home should be fading away lures in healing and fading away lures and other behaviors that aren't new. So that means doing them faster or doing them higher and with less frequency. So you might give the verbal cue, wait. If she doesn't do the behavior, use a no marker, and then provide either a fast or a abbreviated version of the lure, or just use your body position to indicate where she might go, a small step versus big movements. And these things can be shrunk and reduced over time to where they go away. I think touch pads for her can be a way to add some new skills as far as send outs, as far as stationary position changes away from you, and then bringing that into the ability to have her do a down at a remote distance, or a sit or stand. We've also worked a little bit this week on her stand from a down and stand from a sit. This is accomplished, I didn't have it in the video here, but it's accomplished by pushing the lure into her nose. So where you go from here is a little bit up to you, but I'm very encouraged by her progress this week, and happy to chat with you more about where we go from here. Thank you.